everyone. Welcome to LA Rams Central. This is the 89th episode. We're nearing number 100, which I'm pretty excited about. This is not going to be a dual show. This is me flying solo. I want to go over some of these moves that the Rams made and kind of what's going on. So I'm going to talk to Eric about this because he's going to confirm it. Me and him had a little bit of a back and forth earlier, and he said there's no way Sherman Williams is leaving Seattle, and I said there's no way Sherman Williams is staying in Seattle. I turned out to be correct on that. There's a lot of moves going on, and on the 90th episode when I have Eric here tomorrow, we'll talk about what the Browns did with all of their trades. We'll kind of talk about, a couple of these teams and kind of where they're at. But what I really want to spend tonight on is the Ram moves, because I don't believe they're done yet. I think they're going to be active in free agency. If you guys didn't hear, Brian Cushing was actually in the building this week, talking to the Rams and going through a physical. I don't know how I feel about that, but it's definitely an upgrade at linebacker. So what did the Rams do? Well, as we all know, and we've all been excited about, the Rams traded for Marcus Peters. And according to all NFL data, he was the number 3 corner in all of professional football the last 2 years. He's, when you take his numbers and you extrapolate it over the last 3 seasons, he's the number 3 corner in all of professional football. He's a lockdown corner, something the Rams, quite honestly, they've never had a guy that can just line up and play man coverage. Jerry Gray was really good at that, my favorite Ram. But he was like Richard Sherman. He was a zone guy. He performed better in zone coverage and was really good at reacting to the ball, and no one was going to get past him on the deep ball, usually. He got beat occasionally, but he was usually pretty good. Since I've been watching the Rams, we've never had a really solid, legitimate lockdown corner. So I was really excited about Marcus Peters. I was ecstatic. And then a couple days later, I'm doing some looking, and I see that the Rams are getting Sam Shields. And no sooner than I finished the article did the breaking news hit with Akeem Talib. Now, before I get into Akeem Talib, I want to get into Sam Shields. Now, Sam Shields has been out of the commission for a while due to a concussion. But if we don't re-sign Nickel Roby-Coleman, and I believe we will, that's going to give us the best six defensive backs, our 2 safeties, and 4 corners in the National Football League. You've got Marcus Peters that you can lock up on one side, Talib on the other, which I'll get to. But then you've got Nickel Roby-Coleman and you've got Sam Shields. And then you put in the fact with our 2 safeties, LaMarcus Joyner, who is franchise tagged, and I believe they'll get a deal done, and John Johnson, I think the third. What more do you want? I mean, that is, I believe, in my humble opinion, Johnson got screwed out of the Defensive Rookie of the Year. He didn't have as many picks as Latimer, but he ranked in the top 5 in every defensive back statistical category that matters other than interceptions this year. And he didn't even start until later in the year. He's an outstanding safety and is miles better than T.J. McDonald, who I was a big, big fan of. I'm going to tell you who John Johnson reminds me of. And if you guys don't know this name, go back and look at old film. O.J. Atogwe played safety for the St. Louis Rams, and he was one of the best safeties we ever had on a crap team. He has those kinds of skills, and I'm excited for that. LaMarcus Joyner's move to safety was a stroke of brilliance by Wade Phillips. But what about Akeem Talib? Akeem Talib, I told you Marcus Peters was number 3. Well, in the last 3 years, Akeem Talib is the number 1 rated corner when you extrapolate what he's done over a 3-year period in the National Football League, which means the Rams, according to every defensive matrix, has the number 1 and the number 3 DB in all of professional football. So, what does this mean for the Rams? Well, guys, I don't say this lightly. And for those of you that have been following me over the last 2.5 years, you know there is no one more critical of the Rams than me. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to start this. We got to work on this as a Ramily. They actually mentioned Ramily, by the way, on Good Morning Football. I was so happy about that. I'm starting this now. I will only refer to this defense by this name. I will give in to the greatest show on surf for the offense. But the defense is the LAX Express. Because you don't come in here unless the tower gives you permission to land. And I'm telling you, this defense, forget no-fly zone. It's the LAX Express. Because the only thing flying around is our defense. And I can't wait to watch them take off all year long. So spread it, say it, don't listen to anybody else's commentary on it. That's its nickname. Now, unless the players come up with something, which I'm a firm believer that coaches and players have every right to give themselves a nickname. But in the era where they get the nickname from the outside, it's LAX Express. Because like I said, that defense is going to be flying all over the place. In and out of LA all day long. And I can't wait to watch it. Now we traded Robert Quinn. Good move. Now, LT, you're out there. I know you're critical of the move. And I was reading some guy or watching some guy who's a Dolphins fan saying this is a horrible move, this is a horrible move. The initial look looks like it's a horrible move, but considering what you gave up to get him, it wasn't that bad of a move because the upside could be high. But I like the move because I feel like the last 3 seasons, really, Robert Quinn has underperformed his contract, and it's a great way to cut some dead weight and get some more money to Aaron Donald and sign Sammy Watkins. Now, I think the move could help Miami if he stays healthy. He's probably good for 12, 11 sacks, but that frees up money to go get Akeem Talib. And we have Robert Quinn, we don't have Akeem Talib. And Akeem Talib's an $11 million contract that we're reading this year, but I'm okay with that because of what Akeem Talib brings to the equation. You got to throw to somebody. You're going to ignore Peters, you got to throw to Talib. You're going to ignore Talib, you got to throw to Peters. I love what this does for the Rams defense. Now, right now, I think the Rams, my personal opinion, I think the Rams need to go get Houston, the Kansas City outside linebacker that's a free agent. They need to turn around. If you're going to get Cushing, fine, get Cushing. Re-sign Connor Barwin. Make sure Longacre's the other defensive end. You're going to have Barwin. You're going to have Donald, Brockers, and Longacre. And Houston. It's a pretty lethal linebacking core / D-line. That's a lethal front seven. Middle linebacker's a concern because of the other move that was made, and that was the loss of Alec Ogletree, which I'm not a fan of. Again, I think it had to do with freeing up money. After they made the move, all the reports were saying that the Rams are pretty confident that they can go after and get Sammy Watkins, if not before free agency, then certainly in free agency. I hope that's the case. I don't know what other receivers are going to be out there. But it's an interesting move. So when you look at what the Rams have done, they've shored up the defensive side of the ball. They freed up money for Aaron Donald, and they freed up money potentially for Sammy Watkins. Certainly other free agents that are out there. There's some linemen that we could definitely get. It makes the draft more intriguing. Do the Rams get a linebacker in the draft? Do they get a defensive end in the draft? We don't need a DB anymore. Do they get a lineman in the draft? I personally would go that route. Unless the lineman you want isn't there. And for me, it's the guard from Notre Dame and the kid from UTEP. Forgive me, I'm spacing right now. It's late. Those two guys are the two linemen I would pursue. If they're not there, maybe you go a different direction at 21. or 23, whatever we're picking at. This is big. If you're a Ram fan and you're excited, you need to be. And if you're a Ram fan and you're not sure if you should be excited because, has anybody ever won a Super Bowl in free agency? I'm glad you asked that question. The answer is unequivocally yes. In 1992, the Dallas Cowboys in free agency went and got a guy by the name of Charles Haley and an offensive lineman by the name of a defensive lineman by the name of Tony Casillas. And they got a guy from Arizona at tight end by the name of Jay Novacek. They might have actually gotten him in 91 in free agency, but whatever. 2-year period of making good moves. That was the year they went to the Super Bowl. San Francisco 49ers in 94 went crazy in free agency. They got Tim McDonald and Deion Sanders, the best safety and the best corner on the market, and won the Super Bowl in 94. Dallas turned around and went out and got Deion Sanders in 95, which was a big move. They also got a couple other key pieces. I can't remember who the other free agent signing that they got was now off the top of my head, but they got another guy to kind of shore up their defense and won it that way. The Green Bay Packers. In 1996, they went and got Reggie White and Sean Jones. And they won, and Bryce Pop, and they won the Super Bowl. Don Beebe. They were crazy in free agency that year, and they won the whole thing. Andre Rison. The Denver Broncos. Well, they also got Eugene Robinson that year. The Denver Broncos, they didn't because they had such a good team in 96 and they knew that. 98, not really. But look at the Rams in 99. They went and got Trent Green. They went and got Marshall Faulk in a trade before the draft. Clearly those moves paid off. So, yes, you can win a Super Bowl in the free agent market. You just got to make the right pick, and I think the Rams have done that. So, defense was my big concern. The secondary, in this day and age, you can survive with weak linebackers if you have a strong front four or strong defensive line and a strong secondary. You can survive if you have a strong secondary, a weak front line, but a good linebacking core. You need great and good, and the Rams have great and great. And yes, I said great. I think Brockers played way better than people gave him credit for. Longacre, all year long, I was pounding the drum for Longacre because that guy was just popping on film every time you watched. That Rams defensive line is legit, with or without Robert Quinn. And the secondary is now the best in football. LAX Express. They're going to be flying around, boys and gals. I can't wait for it. I can't wait for it. I cannot wait. I'm going to wrap this show up with this. I want you guys to hit me with a bunch of questions. I'm not going to respond. I'm going to write them down along with your name, and I'm going to address them. I want to know what questions you have for me as your analyst, if you will. What points you want me and Eric to kind of focus on or talk about on the next show. I want the 90th show, the 90th episode, to be driven by you, the fans. I've laid out what I think of these moves, and me and Eric will talk more about this together tomorrow. But that's going to be one portion of the show. Portion 2 and 3 is going to be fan-directed. So comment, ask questions, things you want us to talk about, make some points. Because, guys, I'm excited. And like I said, I'm going to end with this. I don't give compliments very easily when it comes to the Rams. I'm very critical. I look at things with a coaching cap. And when I see crap, and I call it out. And those of you that have been with me from the beginning, you know it. You know I'm right. And those of you that have followed me over the last year, there's been a lot of times I told you something was going to go down, and maybe you believe me, maybe you didn't, but then it turned out to be true. LT likes to say there's a reason he calls me Yoda. Well, I appreciate the compliment, okay? Well, let me tell you what Yoda thinks. Yoda thinks that this move that the Rams just did with Akeem Talib, when you include Sam Shields, you include Marcus Peters, you include freeing up money to give Aaron Donald the richest contract of any defensive lineman in NFL history, what you've effectively done is you've punched your ticket to the Super Bowl. The Rams, if they are not the hands-on favorite to win, not get to win the Super Bowl in 2018, then either they're delusional, they're kidding themselves, or they're homers. Because it isn't even going to be close. I expect the Rams offense to have a drop-off. I do. 33 points a game is a lot. I'm thinking they're going to get back to reality and score about 28 points a game. Is there anybody out there that genuinely believes that this defense is going to lose very many football games when its offense is scoring 28? In other words, is there anybody out there that thinks this Ram defense that they've just assembled is going to give up 29 or 28.5 points a game? I don't think so. I don't think teams are going to get to 22 points a game. And by my recollection, and I'm bad at math, 28 to 21 is a W. I think the Rams could go, they could be as good as 14-2, 15-1. At minimum, it's a bad year if the Rams go 12-4. It's a bad year if they go 12-4. That means something was happening along the way that shouldn't have been happening. This team should be right now, without seeing where they, when they play the teams that they're playing, I'm telling you right now, guys, the Rams should be 14-2. They should sweep the West. They should sweep the AFC West. And I got to see the rest of their schedule. Because I can't remember who they're playing. If it's the NFC East or the NFC North or the NFC South. It can't be the South. They just played it. Or they just play the East. So maybe it is the North. If it's the NFC North, the Vikings will always give us problems. And Aaron Rodgers can beat any defense. And those are two games that I would be concerned about. And I'm sure there's a third game out there that when I look at the schedule and be like, this one concerns me. 13-3 is acceptable. 14-2, 15-1 is expected. 12-4 would be a down year, but still be a good year. Anything less than that, they underachieved. That's the reality. Now, one caveat. They have to stay healthy. That's a wrap. Hope you enjoyed it. LA Rams Central. Go Rams!